amazing introduction. So hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. And in this short session today, I want to take you beyond the hype about test automation to uncover what it could be really costing your teams. Costing not only in terms of money, but also in terms of time, in terms of culture, and in terms of risk as well. Now, this topic is really close to my heart because throughout my career, I've had one single guiding principle, and that has been to work with engineering teams to help them deliver better software to their customers, and automation is a big part of that. And as some of my fellow speakers have said it brilliantly before I did here, this topic is even more important today with AI, because AI has really intensified this hype on all things automation and all things velocity. So the promises have become bolder, faster releases, self-healing test cases, cleaner code, fewer bugs, and even happier engineers. And this can all be true of automation. Automation can be really powerful, but only if its objectives are focused and aligned with your quality strategy. So in this talk, I'm going to separate between automation's power from its price tag, and I want to hand you a blueprint so you can measure both with your teams as well. Before we dive in, I just want to do a quick terminology check, because we've been talking a lot about AI, and there is a lot of automation in AI as well. But in this presentation, when I talk about automation, I'm mainly talking about UI and API automation, not AI process with agents or unit tests even. Now, some of the concepts I'm going to talk about can be used more broadly, but my focus today is specifically on UI and API automation. So first, I want to reset how we think about quality strategy. If there is one thing that my 25 years experience have told me in working in engineering teams, is that we tend to oversimplify our quality strategy to a simple set of checks that are run by automation. It's really important to understand that quality is more than tests. Testing and tests is part of your quality. It's an input to it, but it's not quality itself. So a solid quality strategy really requires that a team first starts with defining quality for their own team and their own company as well. Is quality about customer satisfaction? Is it about speed to market? Is it about innovation? So each team is going to define quality differently, and it's really important that that's defined across your engineering team. So answering these questions will help your team have clarity on what quality means to them. Once you know what quality means to your team, then you can start working on a very strong quality strategy, which should cover everything that's on your definition of quality. But it should also include testing, both automated and human-driven. And it should also cover different strategies for different risks, instrumentation, and at a minimum, observability as well. So remember that quality strategy is more than just test cases. Now, across every organization that I've worked with, from small startups to large enterprises, I see automation failing for a similar number of reasons. The same quality anti-patterns show up over and over again. So I will go over the top 3 anti-patterns that I often see, and why they are more than just testing problems. They could be a real signal for why your team could be wasting more time and money in automation than what they should. Now, anti-patterns don't happen in a vacuum. They are created by conditions and incentives that shape the behavior of teams. So root causes are usually embedded within culture, team culture, and company culture as well. And anti-patterns create dysfunctions. And these dysfunctions is how the anti-patterns show up on a day-to-day in your teams, and that's where we can really see the costs of those quality anti-patterns as well. Now, an important point about anti-patterns is that they are not linear. Anti-patterns create dysfunctions, but also dysfunctions can create their own anti-patterns. So if you're going to look for the root cause of an anti-pattern, you might need to go back on this loop a few times. Just keep that in mind. And there are two ways that we can usually address quality anti-patterns. The first is you can address the root cause for lasting impact. But I often advise teams to start by working on the anti-patterns first, because you can stop the bleed, you can stop the dysfunction that it creates, you can stop the cost, while you find time to deal with the organizational change that you might need to deal with to stop the root cause.
If you're enjoying this, LeadDev's got loads more to offer.
I have written some blog posts for the website in the past. I know the recordings from all the conferences are up there. You should definitely check it out.
LeadDev can offer you a variety of things, from blogs, webinars, panels, Slack community which is super supportive.
So make sure you check out leaddev.com.
So the most common anti-pattern that I often see is automation bloat, or as I like to call it, death by 1,000 fixes. You know it, I'm sure you've seen it when the framework has too many test cases, they take too much to run, or worse, they take too much, it costs too much to maintain. Some red flags to help you identify this in your team is that if your team is spending more time fixing test cases, they really create new test cases during a sprint. They could also, another red flag could be that they have that, you see the fear in their faces when you change in certain areas of the code, because you know they're going to have to change a massive amount of the automation as well. So these are all, some of the dysfunctions that this anti-pattern can create includes slowing down delivery, a velocity drag, and having a huge impact on team morale as well. So these are all costs that we want to avoid. An effective way to tackle this anti-pattern is really starting by asking, what's the purpose of these tests? So you have to look very closely to the automation suite that you have and begin removing tests that are either closely duplicating others or that you might think that they can be removed. It's OK to delete test cases. Work towards a minimum viable test suite. Some common root causes of automation bloat can be an automate everything mindset. That root cause is usually created by a misalignment on incentives, such as incentivizing your test team or engineering team on the number of test cases that they are putting out instead of the quality of the software that they are releasing to production. Also, another common root cause is having a lack of a clear quality strategy. So working on a clear quality strategy will have the team focus on a solid automation coverage goal that they can reassess all the test cases that they have with that. The second most common anti-pattern that I've encountered is maintaining a brittle framework. So this is an easier one to spot because we've all seen non-deterministic test cases or flaky tests. But the anti-pattern here is really to keep those test cases in your framework, because the dysfunction that they create can be very expensive. It makes engineers spend valuable time investigating flakiness instead of exploring the real issues. And it quickly erodes trust on the framework itself. So soon, the team starts to ignore real failures that suite may encounter. So the most effective short-term solution I've found for this anti-pattern is to create a test quarantine suite. So as soon as you find tests that are becoming flaky, move them out of your main suite, make sure your main suite's clean, and move it out to a test quarantine suite. The main thing here is to make sure that you have a clear process for how to tackle those test cases in your quarantine, because I've worked in teams where we just put test cases in there and let the test case go there to die, never looked at them ever again. So it's really important to have a process in an SLA for how many test cases you get there and how long they can stay in quarantine for. So longer-term solutions involve dealing with the root causes, which could be designing or redesigning your automation suite for flexibility, like looking for weight strategies, for brittle selectors, and so on. And also aligning our automation tool and languages with the rest of the engineering team. So I've worked in teams where the testers use a different language than the engineers, and that creates a huge gap between the two teams, and the engineers cannot help them to look at the issues that they have with the deterministic tests. So a good rule of thumb here is if a test breaks more often than it catches bugs, rethink it. And the last anti-pattern I want to cover today is having too many escaped bugs. Bugs that could be found by automation and human testing, but they were not. These frameworks are tricky because they look fine. The dashboards are usually green. They are not bloated. They are not brittle. But they deliver very little value because you keep seeing the production incidents pile in. So this anti-pattern is costing a team valuable time and resources because they continue to run low-impact test cases while the high-risk areas remain neglected in production. This is an interesting one because I've worked in teams where we were finding production issues, creating more test cases to make sure that didn't happen, but because we're not really looking into what the high impact areas of the system were, we are getting more test cases, but we continue having those bugs in production. So we were trading quality for quantity there, or quantity for quality. So the root cause here is really a misalignment between the engineering and testing team and product on what the high-impact areas of the system are. So the short-term solution is to discuss test coverage with the whole team. It sounds like an amazing idea, but more often than not, the testing team goes off and creates the test coverage very separate in the engineering team, the PMs, the designers, the whole squad. And they cover what they think is the money path or your most high-risk path, but they are not covering the high important areas that the rest of the team believe is the case. So get your whole team together and discuss what's being covered and which areas that might be left out. So when I started, I talked about how automation isn't just possibly costing our organizations money, but it's also costing time, culture, and trust. And you've probably noticed that the three anti-patterns we discussed are all connected. They are often rooted in the same underlying problem. And by focusing on a minimal viable test suite and a clear intentional quality strategy, you can solve for many of these quality patterns. So if there is one thing that you take away from this talk, I hope it is that automation can be incredibly powerful, but only when it's in service of your quality strategy, not the other way around. Thank you.